Well, first of all, welcome everyone. We do appreciate, at least on behalf of Chadwell Supply, we do appreciate you jumping in on the Zoom meeting with us today. Looking forward to tackling how to get us a little closer back to normal, and that's the purpose of the presentation today. Is just to, okay, what can we do now to make when we do get back to normal, a lot less challenging. Just got off a Zoom meeting with our board at the Lexington Apartment Association, and one of the topics of conversation was, what the office is going to be dealing with, not just on the maintenance side, but just the pending potential nightmare it can be if we're not ready for it. So we at Chadwell Supply hope this is a presentation that will at least take a little of that burden off of you. So we'll just get right started. So what do we do now? I guess the first thing we need to figure out is in the terms of the non-emergency work orders that's building on the manager, the assistant manager's desk is, well, first of all, when are we going to get back to normal? And who even knows that? What does normal even look like? And that's just, and what's normal for you in your market here in Kentucky. Our governor is being a little more cautious about things. The stay-at-home order is probably going to get extended a little bit. Up north we're seeing that as well, and obviously politics plays a part in that. But that's stuff we just can't control. So in your given market, what's it look like? I think the news to show Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee are all going to try to approach that a little sooner than not. That could definitely have an effect on when your particular area, your particular property gets back to normal. So what does that look like, and when do we get there? The next thing we need to look at is, are we comfortable when we get back to normal? Obviously, it's a challenge to get a lot of this material, but proper PPE is critical. Again, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for us to serve that particular area of our inventory. But at the same time, how much PPE are we going to need? Is that something we definitely need to plan for? The next thing we kind of need to plan for is, do the residents still need the service? Here in Kentucky, it's still a little chilly outside, but a month ago, for a lot of our areas, especially south of Kentucky, the weather, the heat call probably is not. I mean, that was an emergency anyway, but nevertheless, there may be just some service areas where maybe the resident it was such a non-emergency that it's really not even an issue anymore. Obviously, those are few and far between, but how critical of the non-emergency work orders you have left, let's line those up and what's actually critical and still needed versus what was just really could have been just a complaint. Or how many times have you heard where first of the month you get a service request because someone may be short on rent, where there's really not even a service order. It's just a delay tactic first of the month. Next thing we need to plan for probably is, could the office mitigate some of these work orders? Is it something that we could just discuss over the phone that, hey, I'm having a hard time with my thermostat, or I'm having a hard time, hey, this faucet seems to drip a little. Well, are we making sure everything is there a conversation the office can have with the resident that keep the maintenance team out of it and as such eliminate the work order? And the next thing, probably the most important thing we're probably going to discuss is, do we have adequate supplies needed for these pending work orders? Here's an issue and I think the next slide is going to talk about this. We don't know as vendors, Chadwell Supply or any of our competitors, plus vendors from other industries, we don't know what properties are going to need when the fire hydrant gets opened up and we're back to normal. We have no idea how to forecast. We've never dealt with this. One of my guys I work for is on the call with us. I think he emailed us yesterday, And he said, we've been doing business a certain way for 35 years until a month ago where we've had to completely revamp what we're doing for the unknown. And you guys are there too at the property level. But with all that being said, we have no idea what's going to be needed, and we have no idea how to supply this or how to get enough inventory. So with that being said, we need your help. We really do. And not only do we not know what you're going to need, but lead times for the inventory are probably going to be extended due to the pandemic. Certain factories shut down production of stuff we use for the benefit of the healthcare industry to have the materials they need. So on top of the fact that we don't know what you may or may not need, nor can we forecast what that would look like, we're going to have issues anyway with some materials, not all, but there could be some inventory out there that's going to be harder to obtain. And obviously, if we get down to it and we wait until everything's back to normal, and we start turning on the work order, going through the work orders and getting those going through those, you got to be mindful of your budget. That's a big hit all at once. We need to possibly look at purchasing that product now for a lot of reasons. One, let's love on the budget a little, and two, if there's a lead time, it's better to go ahead and let's get that ordered and get the back order now when you're not able to form the work order. And then by the time we're ready, it should be there. And I'm gonna slow down. Is there anyone have any questions thus far?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just maybe you could kind of help us figure out which work order should properties prioritize. Because we're gonna have to obviously prioritize accordingly and get a good flow there. Which ones should prioritize, in your opinion, or kind of help us with that?
Sure, and I'll open that, and all questions are open to anyone on the call here on the meeting. If you got a great idea how you're already doing that, I'll be glad. Everyone's all ears here. I guess the thing I would is what is the most efficient way? I guess efficiency would be, and time constraints would be the thing I would look at. So if you could segment work orders per part of the property. You could also segment work orders, especially if you're adding labor, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. If you're adding labor to help get through those, if it's outsourced labor, say it's a plumber. Obviously, you can segment plumbing related work orders just for the outside contractor. If you're doing it completely in house, you could hey, let's do the plumbing orders now. Just kind of similar where we do renovations, where you have the demo team come in and you have the plumbing team, or however you do it, the electric team, all throughout, and then in with the flooring and the paint. You can do it that way as well. There's a lot of ways to do that, but it really is going to be property specific to what your needs are and what your available resources are. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Another area we can help, as your vendor should be able to help you. Chadwell Supply definitely can. Is when it comes to planning, especially for supplies that are needed. We have access to your order history. So one thing we can do, hey, Arbor Green Apartments, last May and last April 2019, here's where you were as far as order history. These are the materials you bought back then. You got 15 toilet seats, you got half a dozen kitchen faucets. Should we assume that you're going to need those again for turns or for work orders? Also, and any vendor, I would assume any vendor should be able to do that for you. Chadwell Supply definitely can do that for you. Your local TSM should have access to that readily available. Also, whether you use Yardi or RealPage, Ops, or all the like, maybe see if, and I'm not, we're not experts on that from the vendor side, but you should have access, I would assume, to your work order usage or your work order history from the year prior, I would assume. But I would definitely see whatever your property's operating, database or mainframe is, definitely use it as a resource to better plan or have a good idea of what types of material you're going to typically need anyway. And that will definitely help with the planning side of it. But if before we move on, we cannot stress, go through your work orders as soon as you can before you go back to a more of a normal operation, and definitely try to identify the supplies you're going to need and do that now. Because again, the supplier world has never dealt with anything like this, and definitely in my lifetime, to where we have we don't have a lot of information to be able to help you prepare for this without constant communication, and that starts now. We definitely need your help there. And we move on here. So labor, especially planning for labor. One, are we going to have outside help? Do we need contractors? Do we need, there's a lot of unemployed. Obviously, you've got to check with corporate policy on this, on grabbing some folks, but there's a lot of unemployed people around. I think the state here in Kentucky, keep in mind there's only 4 million people in the state, and I think they're taking on between 13 and 20,000 new unemployment claims a day. So we know plenty of unemployed people who would definitely love an opportunity, but obviously, there's liability issues to cover before you just take those on, and definitely check with corporate policy. But can you grab some help from outside, at least on a temporary basis? Also, could staff from other properties be better utilized? You have a property that's, let's say, very small, 100 units or less, that really just probably has a part-timer there. Maybe use a part-timer for full-time, maybe use them for half a day at a property that has 150, 200 units or more, where you have more of a need there. Is that something you can utilize? And then obviously, that's for the larger properties within that same company's portfolio. We'll move on to training, and why training. Now that we have, and obviously some areas are in the area where we're getting back, I think May 1st is a good starting point for a lot of people in a lot of places in the South, where we're going to see more, maybe not normal, but getting a little closer to it with operations, and probably some of these non-emergency work orders are going to be starting to get tackled, if not already, probably the 1st of May. But in the few days we have left between now and then, this would be a great opportunity to go to the model or go to an empty unit, and let's do some how-to videos for residents. Not just the residents we have now. This is a great opportunity to begin a training for new residents in the future, and try to eliminate some of these this nuisance work orders. My heat is not coming on. The stove doesn't work. I can go on and on and on. And I'm sure there's people on here who could jump in and give us some even better examples. One thing we teach in the maintenance or managers class is that, go in and teach not only residents, but teach the office staff where the circuit breakers are, where the angle stops under the sinks are, how to turn those off if there's a water leak, how to flip a circuit breaker if the power goes out. Now obviously you got to be comfortable there. I mean, certain properties, you may not be as comfortable with that as, say, some newer properties. Like I said, the angle stops, how to change the smoke detector battery, how to change an air filter. Just some things that, we could share some of that responsibility, maybe even delegate it a little bit to the residents. Now, obviously that's a per property discretion. If you're selling a full service property, you may not want to do that, but depending on what the comfort level and what the culture of the property is, it might be a tool to utilize to maybe minimize some work orders. Also, another opportunity this provides is to train the office staff. One complaint I get here in Lexington is constantly the maintenance guy will say, I've got a work order here and it says there's no heat. Well, step one, we got to go to the unit, figure out what's wrong, why does it not have heat? Then we go back to the maintenance shop, get the part, take it back to the unit, and then make the repair. Well, if we could train, now obviously we're not trying to make experts out of the leasing staff. We're not trying to make them HVAC experts or maintenance experts, but if we could just teach them, okay, if you get a no heat call, maybe ask questions. Well, what is the thermostat reading? Well, the thermostat says it's set to 80, but it's 68 degrees. Okay, well, then at least we have more information. That doesn't necessarily fix anything. It doesn't give, but at least we have some information to where the maintenance, the veteran maintenance technician or supervisor who has a lot of experience and has a lot of knowledge on his own property, maybe even with those units, probably has a better idea of what to expect and could probably take a couple of pieces of supplies with him that probably would fix the issue without having to make multiple trips. So this is just another opportunity to train and get our staff more cohesive on and how to take care of work orders. And again, does Yardi and the like, do they have a work order tool to help with diagnosis? And what I mean by that is when you get work orders electronically, because I know that happens a lot now. People have a portal they can do service requests. Is there like an FAQ, or most commonly, this may already happen automatically, but is there a more common, commonly requested issues and easy steps to take to prevent, to fix the issue very quickly that the resident could do, that we're comfortable letting the resident do? Is there anyone on the call, before we move on, or anyone on the call have some of those training, have anyone or have any of those programs already in place where we're trying to minimize work orders and kind of delegating a little bit to the residents?
Hey, Chad, this Van.
Yes.
What I found that some properties are doing is making them property specific as far as their training, because not everybody has the same type of appliance, faucets, and different things like that. So I know one company is making their guys do it property specific.
Yeah, and that's another point. When you go back and when someone says, hey, the refrigerator's not working, or the burner or the stove's not working, maybe even get, hey, what's the make? You may have GE in phase 1 and Whirlpool in phase 2, and you know where all of your oven elements and burner blocks are pretty universal, but at least some of the non-universal parts, you at least have an idea. Hey, instead of taking the GE oven element into a unit's got Whirlpool, at least now it's one less trip I have to take. So that'd be a good piece of training as well. Anyone else have any questions on work orders?
Little thing, this girl in Louisville.
Okay.
And I've got some of my customers that are saying that they can only order up in emergency use only, that they're not allowed to place the regular orders, just what they're needing in emergencies. So what I've been doing is a quote, just putting a quote in the system of things that they're going to need off of their work order for the future, so that whenever they are ready to release, they can go ahead and release.
Spoken like a true veteran right there. That's a great idea. That is, in fact, that's probably something we probably need to do more of, and is to be communicating. I'm speaking to the TSMs. We need to probably communicate with the properties and offer obviously we can't be on site to go through work orders with them, but maybe take an opportunity to say, hey, grab you a handful. What does it look like you're going to need? Let's go ahead and get the quote process going and get ready for that. All right. Well, if anyone has anything else, I'm going to go ahead and, if no one has anything else, I should say, I'm going to go ahead and just begin to wrap this up. If anyone has, like I said, jump in. just jump right in and let us know. But before everyone goes, for the customers that are non-Chadwell folks that are on the call, I want to introduce you also to a lot of the training opportunities we have, especially in the downtime. We have online EPA, this the Section 608, as well as online certified pool operator courses available online. Not to mention our YouTube page that has a lot of videos by our lead trainer, Van Flippen. I think just about any video you can think of that has anything to do with an air conditioner is on our YouTube page. Also, once normal comes back, Van and Randy Munson are going to be out and about once travel's allowed and folks are allowed to gather, maybe not mass gather, but the 10 to 20 to maybe even 25 folks at a time in say a hotel conference room. Once that's become back to the norm, we're going to be back out and doing those trainings throughout the country, and they're chomping at the bit to get back out there and do that. So definitely, on behalf of Chadwell Supply, definitely take advantage of those opportunities. With that being said, on behalf of Chadwell Supply, I just want to thank everyone for being on the call. And if there is nothing further, I think we'll go ahead and adjourn the presentation.
Thanks, Chad.
Really
Thanks, Chad.
appreciate you, Chad. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good one.